Thanks a lot for coming today. This is a tough topic because y'all been at work all day. And I'm about to put a whole bunch of heavy stuff on you, and I'm going to force you to be a scholar. So you're going to kind of need something to write with. You're not going to remember what I say. You need to take something home. If not, you've wasted your time. So don't ever waste your time, or you're the worst business person on the planet Earth, because everything you do, you better be earning from it. We all understand that? Yes. I want to make sure I got everybody's attention, because I promise you I didn't drive up here from Cincinnati to waste your time. I got to give you some stuff, junk, and things today, all right? So let's make sure we get it. Get everything you can. So in this instance, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, not a whole lot, but I got to establish the fact that there's some credibility in the things that I'm going to tell you, especially in a climate when everyone says that they're an expert, and that's not necessarily the case. So you have to understand what sources you're gaining your information from. So I am a business doctor. My PhD is in business and leadership. I own the only business hospital in the world. It's exactly what it sounds like. And in that instance, we operate in 14 countries. I've written 6 books. I actually have a textbook. I didn't bring any to sell because I don't operate that way. I don't keep inventory. But if you want it, we'll talk about it later. But this book here is a textbook. It's an international textbook on how to make good business decisions. It just so happens that Ty thought you should learn about that. I happen to have written a textbook on it. So you're going to learn a little bit about that today, because ultimately as an entrepreneur, you have to make good business decisions, but it's not an isolated thing. And we'll talk about that in depth as well. I'm certified in finance. All of that means is that I understand a lot of the mechanisms around business and around economics. And then that plays a lot into how decisions are made. And so we want to look at that even as it relates to your businesses. So even though I'm going to be talking at you, because that's how it's going to feel at times, but I'm actually speaking with you. I want this to be dialogue. So if I say something that you don't quite understand, you shut me up. So therefore, we can go ahead and get clarity. We good on that? I got everybody's attention and participation on that. Is that right? Yes, sir. Also, if there's something that you don't believe quite applies to what you do, you stop me again, so therefore I can make the connection, because I need you to take this home and use it. We good on that? Yes, sir. Okay. My assistant over here is my #1 business partner in life. My wife, she will be helping me, so you'll see that I will refer to Insana to help us move forward. So can we move forward, Sana, please? So my companies, I've got 2 nonprofits. One is our research institute. One is the business hospital. This is how we treat businesses. Our research institute is just like a cancer institute, where you learn about cancer, then you apply that information to the physician, so therefore they can provide the treatment. Our operation is identical to that. I invented the industry, and I own all the assets around it. So all the information we give is literally the standard for what the U.S. goes by on what's really good in business and what's not so good in business. And so that's the work that I do all day long. I'm essentially your answer for things that you don't know, between myself and my team of practitioners and hospital wings. All right, let's keep moving forward. Let's keep moving. Those are just some of my practitioners. Let's keep moving. So, train of thought. Keep going one more time for me, please. Our first thought challenge is, let's go back up one, because I want them to think about it. We are exploring how you go about decision making. When I say decision making, it's everything that encompasses what ends up happening when you hit the button. The button of, should I go right or should I go left? Should it be up or should it be down? Whatever it is you're doing, how does that process with you? There is an actual challenge to that. So what are some of the challenges? One is it individual creation? Do you believe that your thoughts and that your decision making come from you, or do they come from somewhere else? Do you even have an idea if it is or if it isn't? Have you ever even considered it? We're going to challenge internally where that comes from. And what's really trippy about it is that we've got a lot of ages represented in this room. But I submit to you that no matter how old you are, thinking about how you make decisions does not come over time. You can just be an old dummy or an old fool. The years do not count for anything. What counts for it is your activity and your intentionality as to how you make decisions. And we're going to cover a lot of that. Is everybody still with me, or have I lost anybody? We're good, we're good. If I lose you, please say, Doc, you lost me, so I can back up. I'm trusting you all to do that. Let's keep moving. Is it the evolution of things? So when we say the evolution of things, we know that we're in a generation now that has a lot of technology. We're in a generation now that has a lot of so-called information and actual information. Things are changing, and because they're changing, does that mean that our decisions change? That how we bring in information, does that change? This is a part of our challenge. Let's keep moving. Is it adaptation? Adaptation is the reality that things happen to you, and because it happened to you, now you do something in reaction to the stimulus that was put upon you. Is this making sense? All right, let's keep going. Next is planned purpose, or are all your steps ordered? So now this is where it becomes very difficult, and as an entrepreneur, I submit to you that almost, let me give you a real accurate percentage, about 85% of entrepreneurs in our nation are reactive and not proactive. You say, how can you say that? 99% of all businesses in the United States are a small business. That also indicates that almost everyone is employed by a small business. But 67% of those businesses close within 4 years. So if we round up, that's 70%. What does that mean? If you're closing that fast, you're only doing what the market and the industry dictated to you. You were not in control at any given time. So if we're allowed to be honest, whether you tell me or not, or you're afraid to do it in front of your peers, I know that there's times you have not felt in control of your business. Am I right? That you're like, man, I'm not so sure what's going to happen. I don't know if I'm going to make another dollar. I don't know if I can last 18 months or not. These things are real. So because of that, our challenge is that, are we creating our own decision making, or are we a product of something else? Do we do it because of evolution and it happens naturally? Are we adapting because we're reactive, or do we plan it? The first measure of thinking is that you would have to know that about yourself and be honest, and then say, okay, are any of these good? Are they bad, or are they neutral?
I have a question.
Yep.
So when for instance, so in the planned purpose portion of it, if you're trying to fix a problem that is currently going on, how does that fit into the planned purpose of it?
Okay.
Like, there's a problem, I want to fix that right now.
So in that instance, we're actually going to answer that a little bit later. But essentially, you're asking, if something's in front of me right now, how do I fix that now? Is that planned if I didn't foresee that problem? So for an example, COVID was something that people couldn't see, right? Do we all agree that COVID was something we couldn't foresee?
Yes.
I fully disagree. I fully saw COVID well before it happened. How would I know that COVID would happen before it happened?
Because you're a doctor.
That's one reason. I like what you're into. What else? What was planned? COVID was kind of planned, kind of not. That's a different discussion. I actually have some info on that, but not why.
If you had a contingency in place already for something like this?
So a contingency in place for something like this. So number one, that's right, but I want to expand it further. So she's right with the baseline.
Everything was going online anyway.
Okay, so you think there was already a shift in evolution and adaptability to online.
Exactly.
So let me help you in your thinking, which is more along to you. Did 2008 happen? Did 9/11 happen? Did the Great Depression happen? Is something going to happen 5, 6, 10 years from now? If you don't think so, it's your fault. You ain't thinking. You sleep. So it wasn't planned purpose for most people. They were reactive. They were not prepared for what happens if zombies show up, because we think they won't. But history says zombies going to show up. Is that right? Did we just see what happened in East Palestine, Ohio? Does anybody know? Do you think the businesses knew that was going to happen? Do you think the people of Ukraine knew if a war was coming or not? Do you know that we have, between us and Russia, have 90% of the world's nuclear bombs? And right now we got beef with Russia? Do we all understand that? And Russia's also making treaties with China? You don't think that something might happen one day? And if it does, whose livelihood does that affect? What I know is it ain't going to affect me. It might affect you all, but I'm fully prepared because why? That's planned purpose. Logic making sense. So I don't know if zombies are coming or not, but if they do, my business going to run. I don't know about yours. This is what we're here to discuss today, is how do you go about making your decisions? Have I lost anybody? Y'all still with me? Anybody sleep? My man.
I have a question though. The
it's a great idea to plan purpose. How much of your time do you divide on it? Because if you're so worried about planning for the what if, how do you handle the day-to-day, what's going on now?
Right.
How do you split that up?
That's fantastic that you would ask that. Your day-to-day happened 5 years ago. It was already taken care of. You're just living in the now that you planned way back then. That's what planned purpose does for you. Make good sense? It minimizes what you do on any given day. And we're going to talk about what that looks like directly. So thank you for thinking of that and actually saying it and not thinking it. Okay? We'll continue to move from there. So next, it ain't going, sweetie. Do what my wife says. There we go. So train of thought. Train of thought is how these things are interconnected, hence the word train, and how it moves forward. So the first one here is that logic is the science of formal principle of reasoning. So a lot of times when we're talking about things or we're thinking about things, we will kind of say, use logic. Is anyone in here kind of think of themselves as a logical thinker? Yes, no, maybe. We got a few of them. Has anyone ever heard that women are emotional and men are logical? We don't know if that's true or not, but we say it, right? Because if I were to ask you to give me evidence of it or any science of it, you can't do it, but you repeat it. And you repeat it because of the way that you think. But in this instance, what we know is it's actually a science of formal principles of reasoning. So if you say that you're logical, that means you better know the science of reason. And you better know the definition of reason in order to declare that that's how you think. That's a part of it. We're going to talk about reason too. But you understand the different mechanisms of them, or at least you've seen them. So when we talk about logic and how we piece that together, make sure that we know the science of it. Science is a formula. That means you can actually duplicate it because it's been experimented and perfected at some level. So that means you can do it again and again and again and again, which means that if I think in a logical way, I can do it again and again and again and again. Make good sense? Let's keep going. Reason. Rational ground, justification, intelligible fact making. So you might say, actually, I just kind of use reason. Maybe I begin with logic, but reason kind of takes over. Well, what does that mean? That means that I can take something that kind of makes good sense as a baseline because it stems from facts. This is making good sense. Now, facts doesn't always tell the story, but it's a portion of it. And so if you like to say that I'm reasonable, that means you're using reason. So that means, well, if you're reasonable, you better have some level of facts backing up your reason. Is that making sense? Any issues? Have I lost anybody? Okay, let's keep moving. Linear reasoning is single dimension of the first degree with respect to other variables. So linear reasoning is taking one fact by itself in isolation and then connecting it to other facts in a very progressional standard or status.
Step by step.
Step by step. Which means that you're going to take your first step, consider that step, then you're going to take another step past that. So then by implication of definition, reasoning may not do that. Reasoning may stop at one. Does that make sense? Or not?
May stop at one step.
It may stop at one step because it's just reason. Linear reasoning keeps going.
Okay. Yes.
So it's safe to imply that if I say I'm reasonable or within reason, I might give you one thing, never explore the rest of the variables. Which may be good, may be bad, depending on what you're talking about. Is that right? All right, let's keep moving. Free thought. Unrestrained to authority, tradition, or established belief. We're in a generation and a culture where free thought is now reigning supreme. Things that used to be are no longer. Why do we got to do things this way? Just because they always said it was like that don't mean it always got to be like that. And there's people that think in those ways. So what used to be up is no longer up, and what's down may no longer be down. What's an example of that? Dress code in the workplace, whether I actually go into a workplace or I work remotely. On, and on. These things defy typical traditional belief systems, and therefore free thought is allowed to be introduced. Let's continue to move. Metacognition, higher order thinking and control of the cognitive process. If anyone has ever heard me speak, you'll hear me talk about metacognition the most. It's really the science of thinking about what you think about. And you'll hear me break down this science quite a bit because this science does not exist in people until they're around 11, 12, or 13. It doesn't even exist in the brain. Then the prefrontal cortex doesn't develop until your mid-20s. And that's the part of your brain that actually controls all of your reasoning and logic, which means that you're still somewhat inadequate even to your mid-20s. I know I'm talking a bunch of science stuff, but are we all good? We are. My gentleman that just came in, you need to write, get ready to listen. I got to give you something before you go. Don't worry, I gave them the speech already. Y'all just getting the second hand. So I need y'all to buckle in. We're talking about thinking stuff. All right, so from here with metacognition, and this is going back to your point in the back, is that I now have to take time to think about my thinking, which becomes a formal process and a form of work that I submit to you is not common amongst average people.
Sir, I would argue that free thought and metacognition is at its lowest point in this country. I don't think, like you were saying in your point earlier, who put the programming in your mind? I'm paraphrasing using my own words here. Who put the programming? How did the programming get in your mind? Who put it there and do you want it? I don't think people think at all because thinking is hard. It's so much easier to just be a sheeple and follow the crowd. It's like we don't know what we don't know. We've been conditioned to be conditioned to be conditioned, where it's like a glass onion. And I'm unpeeling these things and trying to think freely, but I don't truly think I think freely.
So in that instance, and your point is very well taken, is what you're challenging are where my thoughts come from. Are they literally coming from inside of me based on the world that I experience, things that I've read, things that I found out, or is it because it was given to me and I've adopted them? And now I've distorted them to my own belief systems or the things that make sense to me. And we're not necessarily sure, so I submit to you when it comes to being a business owner, I promise you, you have no idea what to think. You're guessing all the time because you haven't been trained or taught properly how to think. So you're literally in survival mode, no different than animals when they go in instinct mode. It's hard to think that about yourself, but if I were to ask you, what are you thinking about any of one of your performers right now, you would tell me what? I don't want you to answer it back because I do this all day. I see 60 or so businesses a month. Their performers are terrible because nobody's thinking about their finances in the way in which they should as a business. If I went right down and said, what's your cost of customer acquisition? What's yours? What's yours? What's yours? What's yours? I will not like the answers we get, and you won't even know how to answer them on average. This making sense? If I were to say, how much is your company valued at, it would be very difficult for you to tell me that. If I were to say, what's your overall burn rate and what's the capitalization of it, you might be uncertain. But yet you're a business owner and the whole thing is currency and economics. That's laughable. It literally is laughable. It's like saying, I'm an athlete, but I don't understand how to work out. It's literally the same. So our thinking is flawed, and we have to be taught how to think. Is everybody still with me, or did you leave this room? Y'all with me? I can't tell. Y'all here? Thank you. The feedback helps me. All right, let's keep moving. So decision-making foundation. This is kind of where we are. And the reason why I selected this image, because we are legitimately like children, only when it comes to business. So I'm not saying that we're irresponsible as adults. I'm saying from a business perspective, we are literally like children. These things are happening in our minds. I mentored a young man yesterday, and as I was mentoring him, he came to the house and we were talking, and he's 23 years old, and he says, I have no idea who I am or what I am because all I see are images outside of me and I don't know how to connect to any of it. And he's 23. He's technically grown. So he doesn't even know how to think about himself. In the event that he had to go to work, how does he think about work if he doesn't even know what he is yet? Then he turns into 26, still trying to figure that out. So if he doesn't know at 23, it's safe to say he's 0 years old. So how much better does he get 2 years from now, 7 years from now? When you started a business, you might have known the thing that you knew for that skill set, but you didn't know the overall business, all the workings of it all. Does that logic make sense? So now all these things are happening in your head. What do you feel? What do you think that you think? What are you looking at? Are you wondering some stuff, junking things? And what are you noticing that's happening? All this stuff is bombarding your mind at all times. What did YouTube say? What did social media say? What did my uncle say? What did I learn at the seminar? Dr. Baker said some stuff. Like, that's happening to you all the time. And you got to make good sense of it, then make a decision after that. So let's keep moving. So what we want to know is, are we doing something in the moment, or is it planned? What I'm submitting to you, and I'm giving you the answer a little bit now, is that you should never do anything in the moment. Anything that you're doing in this current moment, you should have already had planned. So if it's just about spending money, for an example, and you went to the mall and you saw a pair of shoes and you said, I'm buying those shoes, that should not be an impulse buy. It should be the reflection of your typical behavior of how you make decisions that were governed a long time ago. So now it falls within the scope of things that you would typically do based on a behavior that you intentionally wanted to execute. Is logic making sense? Yes, sir. So there should not be a spontaneous buy unless you've already declared, I'm spontaneous and I'll do anything. And that would be fine too. That would just be a different system of thinking. Is that making sense? Yes. Let's continue to move. So now we're talking inputs over manifestation, and I'm going to tell you something that maybe you know, maybe you thought of, maybe you agree with, maybe you disagree, but a good decision has absolutely nothing to do with how it turns out. You got super confused, and I love that.
You just broke my brain, sir.
He looked like, what the hey are you talking about? And you say it's true. Tell me why.
Because just because you made a decision doesn't mean it's going to turn out correctly.
So I'm in agreement with you, but I want to change the verbiage. Correct has nothing to do with decision making. Okay. Good has nothing to do with decision making when it comes to output.
So I got an example. Like, like a coal miner, for example. He could be digging with the best drill, digging the same way he's been taught to do for 20 years, and one day not strike. But go the next day, do the same way repetitively over and over again. Eventually, he'll strike by making a good decision of doing it. But it's about the consistency in doing good decisions. How you also.
So it is. But the part that you're missing is the input. He's digging in a place where information said this is the best place to dig, with a tool that said this is the best tool in the business to dig with. And if you don't have this one, use this one, and this one's 20% less effective than the other one. And you should dig for roughly 21 days because the diameter is X amount. And within this radius of things, you will find the thing we're looking for. At that moment, we don't know if the digger will find it or not. But the decision to do so was good based on the available information put into something that we'll talk about later, but the context of where the information came from and how it's to be used.
So the inputs are not directly correlated to manifestation.
At all.
At all. But you gotta highly your likelihood of finding gold or finding something in that parameter is more highly likely. I don't know how
I understand you perfectly. Yep. I understand you perfectly because they're not directly correlated, but they lead to it. So I want to use a sport analogy. If I lose some of you, I'll use a different one. But there was a Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, and they got to the 1 yard line, and instead of giving it to Marshawn Lynch, they threw the football, and it was intercepted, and that decision was criticized forever because they say they should have gave it to beast mode. However, all the analytics said, based on the formation, the down and distance, how the team had played, how the line had played, and the previous success rates before that, that they should have thrown the football. It wasn't a bad decision. It just didn't work. And because it didn't work, they look stupid to average people who don't understand decision making, which is why we call them fans, which is why nobody listens to them. Because they don't know. They're not getting paid to make that decision. However, the inputs all said our right tackle has been getting beat all day. The left tackle was injured. People didn't know that. I can pass set, I can't fire off, I'm going to throw the football because 68% of it says we should convert versus a 32% run. But people that say run have a different decision-making mechanism, and we'll talk about that in a few. Point is, on this particular instance, is that your inputs are what drives your decision-making. So as a business owner, where do you capture your inputs from? So if you're literally garbage at doing accounting, stop doing it because your inputs are wrong. I'm just going to do TurboTax. Don't do that. You're going to get taxed at the highest rate. You will not get all your write-offs. You're going to not net as much as you should net, and that's stupid. And stupid isn't disrespectful. It means it lacks intelligence. So you're stupid. So just accept the fact that you did something you should not have. Your decision-making is flawed. Is this making sense? But as a small business person, well, let me say it this differently, because small business is 50 million and 500 employees or under. So if you're a small business, just say that I can be a bigger small business. So we're really talking micro, boutique, family-owned businesses that are not legacy. We make bad decisions because our inputs are coming from places that are not legitimate, which is to your point. So our decision-making is not absolute. I like using sports as an analogy because there's nothing in the athletic realm that's absolute. A baseball player knows that they're going to strike out. They know they're going to get out. That's why batting at 30% is amazing, because 70% you're going to fail. But I need to use all this technology, all this training, all this science just to probably hit it 3 out of 10. You're trying to increase your percentage of success. That's what decision making is, because we can't see the future. Does that make good sense?
Yeah.
All right? Is that helping you understand inputs over manifestation?
It is, sir. I wanted to ask, I'm not sure if I'm picking up on the undertones or if I'm projecting this, but it seems like it's intentional. The game is rigged against us. And I don't want to pull a black card. I'm just going to pull the money card.
Yeah, absolutely.
Money people don't want, the 1% don't want us to break out of that, you know, wherever we're at. Would you agree with that? Or is that kind of where you're going with it?
That is true but inaccurate. And you like, how? Anytime you create a business, has anybody ever done a SWOT analysis? A couple people has. Who has never done one? Be honest, it's okay, we're not going to yell at you. Right, okay. So SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. That is a very standard way of looking at your business really quickly. So when you look at what your weaknesses are, if you have weaknesses, is it safe to assume that somebody's going to capitalize on your weaknesses? What's an opportunity? A place that I might be able to fish in because nobody's fished there. But what does threat mean? Threat means somebody's trying to take away my fishing pole. Does that make sense? So hold your thought because I'm still finishing his, but don't forget it. So in this instance, when you say the 1% don't want us to have it, they're not concerned about that. We're never going to be big enough in order to take that at any one level. There's only 2,042 billionaires. They don't give a what about anyone. It's 2,000 people on the planet. There's 2,400 businesses in Blue Ash. Right, so they don't even populate Blue Ash, Ohio. So the point is there's no concern. That's why I said it's inaccurate. The thing is, the information is available. That's the difference. It wasn't always available. So that leaves us with no excuse, hence the reason why Trump doesn't think he's racist. He's like, we gave them what they needed. And we're like, no, you didn't. He's like, why not? Just go do the same thing we did. And in reality, we can if we have the right inputs. That's not being blocked from us. That's not being blocked from anyone. But the reality is, the average person isn't even average because average is underachieving. And that part is known. Right? All of you are looking at me with really good intent. I feel really good about the audience. However, a big percentage of you actually don't care. Right? You just care right now. Then when I release you, you'll be back to being whatever you were and what you've always been. That's just a baseline of information from the days of Noah. Are we understanding? So I'm not saying that to be mean. There's stats on that, and we know them. All right, so if you want to increase every bit of what is available for the billionaire, we have. Now we just got to access it. All right, and that has to do with our thinking. Your statement.
Well, this actually probably maybe comes into that thinking part. You talk about the inputs. I can look at that input. Mike can look at that same input. and we look at it from two different.
Absolutely.
He may look at it as an opportunity, I may look at it as a threat. This kind of depends on the filter.
Mm-hmm.
And when you also talk about the fishing pole and the pond, right? So a threat is, hey, some people, the companies that I've worked with, small, just starting, tend to think that because somebody's coming in your pond, there's a threat.
Mm-hmm.
They're the threat. Like that, I can't do anything, I can't learn anything from them because they're the threat, they're the competition. I'm like, well, if the pond is big enough, then don't just make your fishing pole better.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure your fishing pole is as good as their fishing pole, because there's no way that your one fishing pole is going to catch all the fish.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we also need to be making plans on other opportunities to be able to, have multiple streams of that, this, that, the other. But the whole thing I was getting back to is changing your mindset of we have to work on our fishing pole versus being concerned about who else is coming into the pond.
Absolutely, and you couldn't be more accurate. We're actually going to talk about the different levels and lenses of perspective. Couldn't be more vitally important. It has a lot to do with your thinking. All right, so thank you for bringing that out. Yes, ma'am.
Are we going to talk about how to assess our inputs to see whether or not they are?
A little bit. We're going to sprinkle that, just like a little pinch, just a measure. We will. Yep, absolutely.
Dr. Fair.
Yeah.
I apologize.
You don't. I asked you to do this, and you're doing it, so thank you.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I like the challenge the statement that you made about people not caring. And the reason why I make that statement is that we all know that neurological pathways, once they are laid in the brain cells that are wired together fire together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I'm used to, I'm an alcoholic, or at least I went to AA and that's what they told me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know that when I open that bottle, I'm trying to get to the bottom of it because that's my habit. That's the way I think.
Mm-hmm.
I like to, I'm going to do things a certain way. When I wake up in the morning, I do my normal routine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a habit and a system of things that have been built up. By the time I'm reached, I think it's 5 to 7 years old, or I can't remember the specific number, but 95% of our habits are well laid. So you gotta catch yourself, and it's a process of catching yourself after the fact, catching yourself in the process, and then catching yourself so you can get before it and stop them. So I would argue that people, it's not that they don't care, they fall back onto what they know. Like my child, one of these, they are going to consistently do the things that bring them attention or comfort, regardless of the negative consequences that may come out of that. So that's why I kind of have a challenge with the thing that you said.
Yeah.
You're way smarter than me. Don't think that
No,
I'm
we're
smarter
equal.
than you, sir.
Yep, we're equal. Don't know. Trust that.
Nobody understands.
So in this instance, and I really love your point, is that it depends once again on your paradigm. So what position, which, like you just said, the perspective that you're looking for. So if you were to say, well, look, I went to AA, they told me that I had to change these habits, right? Which we know that's a typical thing in therapy. But if you were, let's say, spiritual, and then you went to spiritual counseling, biblically they would say you need deliverance. Now all of a sudden you got two different paradigms here. One is telling you to create new habits. The other one is saying you need deliverance. Which one is right?
6 of one, half dozen of another.
Right? So it's going to depend on your lens of understanding your level of thinking. What we do know is placebo is real. I was a pharmaceutical rep. I had a pain portfolio. And what was amazing about it was all of our studies as to how a nothing pill healed people. Literally a nothing pill. Right? So in this instance, it has everything to do with what's being programmed. That's why we said, are you a victim of someone else's thoughts? Is it individual thoughts, or is it planned thinking? So what I'm trying to actually impart on you all today is we can control what's going on in there, which ultimately controls what happens going on out here. Is this making good sense? Right? But if we don't know the mechanisms and the tools for doing so, we will be defunct. I'm a bad plumber. I don't use my hands for much outside of making buckets on people. That's about all I do with these hands and write. So in this instance, when it comes to plumbing or fixing something, I have to call somebody because I don't understand that world. So what does that then mean is that, but if I wanted to understand that world, I'd have to change my thinking in that world. Does that make sense? But because I'm choosing to remain ignorant in that world, I got to hire somebody to do that. Making good sense? But I submit to you, we run businesses with that same level of ignorance. And we block all the information that comes. Okay? Let's keep moving. Purpose and value drivers. We actually just touched that. The purpose of your thinking is actually driven by values. And we're going to break into when you asked me, ma'am, about what are some of those inputs, is that your inputs actually stem from the purpose of whatever it is you should be thinking about and the values that you have. So your decision making becomes strong. So I'll give you an example. I'm involved with raising capital almost every day with one of my patients or with our own individual businesses that we own as our umbrella. And as we were dating, we were talking about how I make business decisions, because obviously she can't say she's going to marry me if I'm out here making crummy business decisions. And if she does, she's a bad decision maker herself. And so we talk to one another that way because we don't want to be garbage decision makers. And we didn't want to make a bigger garbage decision by saying two garbage decision makers should be together. Make sense? We don't want that. So when it comes to raising money, we said, well, look, some ways of raising money just don't fit my value proposition. So if I have to go drinking with you, I won't be there. If I've got to go to a club with you to earn the dollars, I won't be there. Now that all sounds like, whoa, what is that? But I won't even golf to get the money. If you tell me I got to go golf to get it, like LeVar always wants me to golf, I just will miss the money. It's not a part of my value proposition. I would only golf if he asked me that because I'm going to be with him. I'm not going to go golf with people I don't know very well. I'm not spending 6 hours on a course to do that. It doesn't fit it. So my decision making is quick. My answer is no. So give me 10 minutes. Let me tell you what I have. You either say yes or no, and I'm off to the next. That decision is simple, but that's driven by my purpose and my values. Does that make sense? Right? I told my wife this yesterday. I said, next person don't have their camera on Zoom. What am I doing? I'm hanging up immediately. I click on, I see your name, off. I'll never talk to you again as long as I live, because you don't care enough about me to show me your face. Don't disrespect me or my time. I'm too good. So whatever you got, I don't need it, but that decision has already been made. I'm deeming you garbage right now. It's the bottom line to it. I don't have to think about it. I don't even have to feel funny about it. It's not even emotional. I made the decision way back when. You come on and I see your name, off. You won't find me again.
What about a picture?
I won't talk to you if I don't see you. So if you driving, taking care of the baby, flipping eggs, I'm out. Well, you doing something other than talking to me, out. You texting, out. I need 100% of what you got because I'm giving you 100% of what I got. So if you're not matching my energy, out. I'll get it elsewhere. Question, ma'am.
Now, are you telling me this in advance, or am I supposed to be a mind reader?
No. I'll just deem you garbage and be out.
So, okay, like, if I go in my pajamas and I got my camera off, you say, hey, can you turn your camera on?
No, I'm not going to say it. You pop on there, out. You'll never find me again.
I mean, how am I supposed to know what your values are if you don't tell me?
Correct. But the reason is that I've deemed my value. So whether you know them or not, I know mine. So if we work with too many people to try to make sure that we got this symbiotic relationship, I'm legitimately making judgments on people's behaviors based on that. Now, however, if you're a patient, that's different. Because I have a business hospital, you come as you are. So you got your pajamas on and your cameras off. You've hired us to help you. I'm at your service. That's not people I'm trying to do business with. Is that making sense? That's a different decision. So if you want me to partner with you, make a joint venture, we're raising capital, you want to be a strategic partner, an alliance for us to bring business to you, I'm out. I don't even like the way you walk. I'm out. Some people say that's not fair. The 1% don't want you in it. Guess what? If you're not speaking their language, they have the right to not want you to have it. That's just a fact. So in these instances, these are decisions that's been made, and we get emotional about decisions that's been made. We need to make decisions about our emotion already and say, you know what, no matter what happens here, I've decided I will not be connected emotionally to anything that happens there. And that is a full decision that we can have. I can choose to only be emotional about my wife and my kids and my friends. I do not have to be emotional about anything in business. And if I want to, I can, and then I have to say, where do I place that? I better have a mechanism for that. I better have an override. That's plan thinking. Small business owners don't think that way, though. So everything that happens moves them this way and it moves them that way. Then they get frustrated. They get irritated. We had a patient of mine is out of Florida, built this new product. We're working through her intellectual property right now. We're preparing her for a capital raise because she has run out of dollars to move this company at the level in which it should. So we're in our first round. We need about 250 grand. She trips into these individuals in Florida. One guy is from Yugoslavia, the other one's from Toronto, and they hail themselves as a decent level investor. She's nervous because she's never been in that investment room ever before. The closest she's got is Shark Tank, which also isn't real, so if you're watching it, don't believe it. But anyways, so that's the closest she's gotten to this type of thing. So from this scenario, I don't prep her for the call. I let her fall intentionally. And I do it because it's a controlled experiment for me. To her, she out on a mountain limb, making good sense because it's her company, and the 250 grand is very real to her. And these gentlemen has presented as if they're the real deal, they're gonna give her the money. But she knows I'm leading the meeting. I've done it enough. I know what's real, what's not real. Well, we went through, and I'll just give you an example. She's pre-revenue, meaning she hasn't made a dime. Why hasn't she made a dime? Because she's still building out her intellectual property. We're still working on patents, manufacturing, on and on. So we won't make a dime out of this company at least until 2024. Any legitimate, high-level, sophisticated, prudent business person would know what stage she's in. So as I'm talking to these investors that say they have enough capital to infuse into her company, I'm fully assuming that they know that, just like I can assume that a senior should know their ABCs, or else how did you get to a senior in high school if you don't know your ABCs? So in this instance, we cut them down. They kind of are like, oh, you too early for us. We're not ready. We don't want to participate. So when we had our debrief call, she was fully sad and upset. Well, I had to prep her decision making because she was emotionally attached to, I might get 250 grand right now. I said, heck no. You should prepare your mind that you'll probably fail 15 times, let people laugh at you, say they're going to do something, don't call back, on and on and on. Why? Because that is the typical behavior. So therefore, you can create an emotional baseline to say, I'm not connected to any of it, but that would be a decision that you're managing. Is everyone following the story? So you're in control of how you operate. The rest of it is not dictating to you. There's no way possible you can be a very good business owner and let everybody dictate to you, because you're only going to be as good as they allow you to be. That's when the they come in. You can eliminate the they. Are we understanding that? All right, I don't want to run out of time because we got so much to talk about. Let's keep going, babe. So experiential thoughts. I know what I saw. It worked for me. I took it and I felt better. My experience is my proof. It's my truth. I believe it when I see it. Anybody ever said this, saw this, heard this, been around that? Yeah. This is all very dangerous and pretty bad, actually. It's actually garbage. So if you did it, don't do it anymore if you're a business person. I'm just telling you that now. Like, take it and punt it away to another universe. Let's keep going. So in this is your decision ring. It's kind of small for you to see. Don't worry about it. It's kind of important, but not really. What's important is what's coming next. So let's keep moving. Is that we have anecdotes, which are personal experiences used as evidence for a claim. I submit to you that most micro and boutique business owners, they go off of their experience. And they want everyone else to know their experience. And I'm telling you, nobody cares about it that much, because your experience is limited. It's minor, it's minute in comparison to the baseline of information that exists. If you are making decisions based on the things that you've seen and done, you better do something else, which is put it in context. And we'll talk about that a little bit deeper in a moment. But I will tell you that anecdotal research is important. So if it's your only mechanism, you're flawed. If it's a tool, then it's good. Are we all hearing the difference in the two? Is that you want to take your personal experience and say, man, every time I make a phone call, they hang up in 30 seconds. Okay, then you need to revisit how you are using that call, what you're saying, what you're open, how do you know these people, where's the list that you're making the call from. You use that experience to help you with future decision making. But if you say, oh, I don't like the cold call because they don't work, well, how many people said that? I could argue that they do work. Now, we know by percentage they work very low. But it also depends on how good you are and where you get your list from. They could be very high. Is this making good sense?
Back to the baseball theory.
What's that?
Back to the baseball theory.
Absolutely. So if you know that, hey, my cold call is going to land me 4%, okay, well, everything else I'm doing is giving me 2%. I'd rather take the 4 over the 2 because now I'm doubling my opportunity. Is that making sense? Now I can build my model around the 4%, which is not very high, but it's doubling my opportunity on everything else. And oh, by the way, social media marketing is 2.4%. So if you're like, oh man, I got to get out here on social media, go have at it, Haas, and show me how much money you're going to make on 2.4% conversion over the history of time in the internet. Can't be lower. So that means you better supplement it with something that's significantly higher. And if you don't know what that is because your personal experience said that I got a few referrals from what I posted on Facebook, group me or whatever it might be. I don't have social media, so I don't know. One of the reasons is because it doesn't convert high. It's a waste of my personal time. But in this instance is that that's what you would do personally, and that drives decision making. Let's keep going. We are the biggest fool. When I say we are the biggest fool, meaning that we fool ourselves. It's not someone else lying to us. We lie to ourselves the most. So we should not look outward. We should only look inward and say, how am I tricking myself? Don't do that. So as we continue to move forward, is that we think about things without reliable data and without a system. Some of you may have heard me say this before, but it's always worth saying. An acronym that's created, it's not a direct definition, system, save yourself time, energy, and money. So if you haven't heard that, write it down because it's actually very accurate. System is save yourself time, energy, and money. And so the way that we receive the input of information, we do that without a formal system. Which means that most of it is done based on our own experiences, which is unreliable, which leads to bad inputs and also bad decision making. Now, you can't figure out why everything you do just ain't working the way you want it to work. Is this making sense? All right, let's keep moving. Next is context. I submit to you that almost nothing is good by itself and almost nothing is bad by itself. It all has to be placed in its appropriate context. So as a business owner, whether you take a loan or not is not good or bad. Now, we have a lot of people that believe that taking loans is not good. Heck, Glove, you don't want to take a loan. You don't want any part of that. Cash is king, right? And I could show you probably out of 7 billionaires that I know, they don't use cash for a thing. And they use credit for everything. Right? So now we have to determine when should we use it, when should we not use it. Using itself is not good or bad. So your decision around it is based on what's the usage, what's the probability, what's the business model, what's the purpose, what are the other resources. You have to bring all of those things into context. What's the timing? What do you stand to make? I'll give you a great example. Buy a home, many people want to pay their house off. Well, let's say your house costs $300,000 and you come into $500,000. Some people are like, man, I'll pay my house off. High-level financial advisors will tell you, don't pay that house off. Why not? What's that? I kind of don't need credit at the point. Why? Because I have a house. I probably have a car. I got $500K in the bank. I kind of don't need credit. So what would be a more important reason?
Taxes.
Okay, so you might say taxes, but I'm still going to have to pay those taxes because even when my house is paid off, I'm still going to owe tax.
Other investments.
Other investments as of what?
Like annuity.
Well, I want you to finish your thought when you say.
I was just saying you can make an investment, if you got $500,000, you can make an investment in another business or buy another house or something else that's going to generate income.
Okay, so if you took that same $500,000 and you put it in a wealth account and you earn 13%, but your mortgage is 2%, you should just pay your mortgage because you're going to net 9. Instead of paying the whole house off, yes, you own it free and clear, but you just reduce your capital to 200 grand. So do you want to make 9% on 200 grand or do you want to make 9% on 500 grand? Financial advisors say don't pay that house off and you're still going to be able to write the interest off on your taxes. Right, so you're going to save in taxes because you won't have that tax break if you pay it off. So therefore, let me go ahead and continue to pay that interest. I'm going to invest those dollars. I'm actually going to earn income. Once again, that decision is not intellect, it's context. Is that making sense? So if you're void of context and you're void of input, you can't make a decision, which is why small business owners need to stop doing stuff on their own, because you're not an expert across the grid. You're garbage at best at most things. And I'm not being disrespectful, it just is. We all went to school. We weren't good at all the subjects, right? Some subjects are harder than others. I was really good in gym, like literally. Right? Not really, PE, right? Physical education, right? Gym to me, I'm Detroit, 1980s gym, right? So you got a scenario where let's not try to wear all the hats. We wear a badge of honor like, I'm an entrepreneur, man, I wear all the hats. Well, that's dumb. And Sana's a chief technical writer. She's written over $1.3 billion worth of grant money and other contracts. I can write, I've written 6 books. She does my writing, and I've written 6 books.
I want to push that up, man. That's incredible.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
I don't have to do the writing. I say, look what I wrote, honey. And she takes my stuff and you understand what I'm saying? I'm certified in finance, and I had my stuff right off to Joe Faison. 30 years in the space. CFO at Champion Windows, CFO at KPMG. I hand my stuff right over to him. And then when he's done, I take it right to Flynn and Company. Second largest accountant in Cincinnati. Do you see what I'm saying? These are experts on top. I know the stuff, they're experts. Find what you're good at and get the right context. Is this making sense of what I'm saying? Right? Let's keep going. Personal information ecosystem. This is hilarious to me because that's mainly how we operate. Is that we go off of our personal information and we make that our ecosystem of understanding, which is where all your decisions derive from. That is a flaw. It's only going to go as far as you've been. That is detrimental. One reason why I tell you all, and I tell every single person that I come across, that I do business in 14 countries. Why is that important? For the number one reason. You say different things, different ways. You say what?
Diversified portfolio.
You say diversified. You say knowledge. The reason why I tell y'all I've done business in 14 countries, 5 continents, that's because I know my stuff works. Why? Because I did it here in every state and it was like, yep, that works. Then I went to Brazil and was like, yep, it works. Then I went to the Democratic Republic of Congo, like, yep, it works. Then I went to Australia and was like, yep, it works. Then we went to the Philippines, like, yep, it works. I don't have a personal information ecosystem anymore. I have a global ecosystem. Is that making sense? My inputs are significantly larger now. Things that I thought I knew, heck, we just came from Dubai. Great trip in Dubai. If you ain't never been, you ain't never looked it up, you gotta see, I'm talking stop signs and buildings in gold. We're talking buildings that are powered by artificial intelligence where McLarens and Bentleys are more common than Corollas and Camrys. We were there. And literally it changed me again. It gave me a new input. I went there and said, wait a minute now, how is their minimum wage 70 grand? And how do they not charge income tax? And how do they have 0% unemployment? Somebody needs to tell me how this is working, because I'm the business hospital and I don't quite know what Sheikh Zayed did in 1971 when he created the UAE. And I don't quite know what he told his son, Sheikh Mohammed, that allowed him to perpetuate that here in 2023. But I'm about to find out. Those are new inputs. It's not my own personal view. Does that make sense? So if we're only living by our personal view, that means our decision making will be limited. Is that making sense? Don't do that anymore. If you leave today and you keep doing it, it's your fault. You're going to get what you earn. All right, just thank yourself for what you got if you do that. Let's keep going. Trauma is another. Something bad didn't happen to you, so now you don't do nothing. Has that happened to a lot of us? Now, trauma can be good. Yeah, you didn't touch that stove and it burns your hand. You fully learn not to touch that stove again, right? That type of trauma can be good. But sometimes it can paralyze you. Now you're afraid to do some things. So we have to be conscious about the fact that I got trauma there. And here's the thing, it's okay if you do. So for an example, if typically you would make a very large financial decision, and you might say, but last time I did that, I lost everything. And when I did, my wife and I had problems. And then my daughter suffered. I don't really want to make that type of investment again. That's fine. That's prudence. Once again, it's contextual. Does that make sense? But you have to acknowledge the fact that I'm making decisions based on trauma. You know how many people never recognize that trauma is driving their decision making? That's the flaw. Is not knowing that it exists. So you have to acknowledge it and give it the air it deserves so you can say, hey, you know what? You understand? Right? Let's keep going. Your successes, because you did something once, you keep doing it again. Great example. I'm really talking to Glove right now, so he and I can share a laugh, whether it's now or later. But my brother, when he shoots a three-pointer and it goes in, he's going to keep shooting them. And it's such a bad shot. Now all of a sudden he Curry. And we're like, you're not. But he's going to let him fly. Why is that? Because the success gave him confidence, but it was false success. And there's a lot of business owners that go out and they get some success early and they think this is what I'm supposed to do, and they don't add to their inputs. They don't have future decision making. So they live in that spot, then they get railroaded and they don't understand what happened to their business. Does that make sense? That is a trap. Early success couldn't be worse of a trap. It's actually better if you sputter out, have perseverance, and then find success, because now that might become sustainable because you're forced to have additional inputs. You have early success, it will lie to you. So you have to be smart about that and conscious about, you know what, I got success here. Can I duplicate this with the right inputs and know what to look for? All right, let's keep going. Comfort. Many of us operate out of comfort. I don't feel like doing that. I ain't used to that. Heck, Glove's favorite word is comfort. Now, Baker, I'm not so comfortable with that. Right? He'll say comfort in a minute in our arguments that we have on the phone from time to time. Me and you both like content and gratitude, content and gratitude. But comfort ruins people. I'll give you an example of Insana and I. She wants me to do a lot in my business that I just don't feel like doing. She'll say, we got to have more case studies. And I'm like, skip them. I ain't giving them nothing. She's like, but they want to see it. And I'm like, so what? I just don't really feel like doing it. It's not that I don't know it works, but it's her job to make sure that I do them. You understand that? Because if it was up to me, I would have none, because I don't feel like it. I feel like I've gotten to a point where I just don't feel like doing that to y'all. Right? You either believe me or you don't, and I'm just going to keep going. And she's like, no, no, no. But that's a different input. Are we understanding what I'm saying? Because the business that I have, we're aiming for 30 billion. That's not a fake number. So what she knows is how to get billions. I don't. So I have to listen to her or I'm a fool. Remember, we're our biggest fools. So when she says you need case studies, let's snatch up some case studies then. I may have to wrestle with myself, but nevertheless, I have to break out of myself being the biggest fool and say that's a different input. I can't live in my personal ecosystem. Is that making good sense? Is using myself as an example helpful? Because I'm not exempt either. We all have to be on guard against this.
Did you do them in this building? Did you first do the case study?
Heck no. I'm only doing them because she said so. Right? If she don't say so, they wouldn't be done. Right? I'm being obedient at this point, right? I'm following the instructions of the expert. Let's keep going. Historical results are similar to trauma and success and comfort. Keep going. Bias is really important. Oh, my man, what's happening?
So when you wrestle with yourself, right, with that situation, what systems do you have in place to get out of your own way?
The system override is that that's her job, and so therefore I'm submitted to her position. Her position is to make sure that I'm forward facing the way that other people need to view us in ways that are in the best interest of the company. So it's no different than when Ben Phillips, who runs my international office out of the Philippines, tells me that culturally I need to behave a certain way in Asia. Sometimes I don't feel like it. I'm like, they need to act like we do in Detroit. And he's like, no, doc, you can't do that. Because we want to convince them to do what we want them to do. So therefore I have to listen to him because he's the expert in that space. That's my override. Because if not, I shouldn't have them in that position. And I made a decision way back in to put them in position to tell me what to do in their function.
So you have a system to get in that metacognition mode and see yourself.
Absolutely. And I also made a decision for them to stop me in my tracks and tell me to shut up because I'm doing the wrong thing. Because I do have bias as well.
And you let them know within that relationship?
Absolutely. Right from the beginning, they know that. So they'll tell me no, no, no. So she can shut me down whether she's saying, number one, I'm your helpmeet, I'm your rib, you gotta listen because you're incomplete without me. And then she can turn around and say, I'm the chief technical writer here and I'm telling you what I need to do my job. So I'm infractioned either way.
And that metaphorical for how like you run the class today. Like you told them like we can stop at any time.
I fully told you ahead of time, but I'm in control of whatever you all ask. None of you have been in control, none today. Right? And I'm not saying that to say that, I'm just telling you I'm good at this. I know when I want people to talk and when I don't want them to. I know how to set the expectation because I've been doing it since '94. Right? But the point is understanding that input. So as a business owner, you need to understand your world and control that world with inputs. Is that making sense? And the more inputs you get, you attach that to your tool belt. You don't let one slide, you pick them all up. And you put that in the toolbox and say, I'm saving this for the appointed time. Making sense? There is no more casual living as a business owner. Your days of casual living are over. If you want that, get a job. If you want to run a business, you are out of balance now. Okay? You got to pay attention to it all. Let's keep going. My time's short. I got to get rolling. System thinking. All right, keep going. So we've got design thinking. One more time. It's cognitive, strategic, and practical processes using multiple contexts. So what I'm imploring on you is to be a design thinker, regardless of which side of the coin you fall on intellectually, is that I would love for you all to say, you know what? I take my thinking seriously because my thinking leads to decision making. When we talk about cognitive and strategic, that means you're actually planning out scenarios. You're looking at every level of context and saying, you know what? This is important, this is important, and this is important. And oh, by the way, there's a bunch of stuff that I don't even know exists. So I need to go call somebody that knows something else that I don't know to give me more inputs. Is that making sense? I'll tell you one exercise that I do with my team. And it actually happens every night and every morning because my Filipino office operates at the exact opposite time of us because of time zones. But how many times do you hear me say, Sana, like, am I on drugs? Help me understand what I'm missing. They know when I ask them that, I'm seeing 7, 8, 9, 10 different elements, but are there 15? Are there 20 out there that I just don't know? And all of my team members have an expertise somewhere else. So I've got lawyers on the team. I've got financial people. I've got creatives on the team. So I'm going to every type of brain type saying, what am I missing? Now, we can't see it all. One second. We can't see it all, but we can see a lot of it. Is that making sense? And if you don't have the right team around you, I see yours too, you will then suffer because you're going back to your own personal ecosystem. And that's what you're fighting against.
Overthinking is my mantra. And I also suffer from analysis paralysis. Now, you breaking my brain, doctor. Like, how in the hell do I incorporate these high-level things you talking about into my, when I know there's no easy answer for that?
It actually is. And I have to say a whole bunch of stuff just to show you that it's 1, 2, 3. So the bigger I make it, the easier it becomes. Just like if you ever learned calculus, how easy was addition? But if you never knew addition, addition's hard. I'm giving you calculus to make addition easy. That's what we're doing. So at the end of this, when I wrap this up, it'll be very simple for you. You're going to say, oh my goodness, it is a 2-step. And it's going to be the same old 2-step every time. See those moves? I'm going to do those tonight when I go skating at the place from 9 to midnight. What's up?
Multiple contexts are the same thing would be synonymous with multiple inputs.
What is again?
You said cognitive, strategic, and practical processes using multiple contexts.
Mm-hmm.
And that sentence, context will be the same thing as inputs?
Kind of. So inputs are the things that go into the decision making. So they're different elements. Context is timing, placing. So it's not something that was given to you. It's when do you exercise it and what things are connected to it.
So with this system thinking would it include?
So there's multiple system thinkings that I'm going to show you. The first one is design. That's the way that works. And so design, to remember it, it's a design. It's robotic thinking. So let's look at it like that. Is that you have to practice robotic thinking. It's an actual exercise. You're going to have to sit down in a place and write stuff down. And you're going to have to say, okay, I think about money this way. But I think about relationships this way. But my personal relationships look a little bit different than my business relationships, so I have to actually connect. But even my personal and my businesses are still different than my acquaintances. Okay, but I look at commercialization like this, but then I also look at, you see how that's metacognition what I'm doing right there. Is that I'm sitting the time to say, leave me alone. I got to go think about how all my relationships look. Then you whiteboard the whole thing and say, okay, how do these things connect? How do I leverage this one over leveraging that one? How do I make this decision over that one? And then you use all of that based on things that you have access to. So once again, your successes. Give you a great example as we're fundraising right now. We're in the middle of a massive capital raise. I've got 35 targets that all are worth $500 million or above. I've met with 4 of them in the last week. I tell her that because they're trying to figure out how to get all my commercialization and digital assets together so I can look real pretty when I walk in there. I'm like, I don't need it. I'm gonna go in there and tell them what I want and they're gonna give it to me. And she's like, how's that working? Because I've done that for 25 years. So I know I can do that. Just get me more than what I would do for myself. Watch what I walk out with. But that didn't just happen. That decision was made a long time ago that I would perfect that skill set. Is that making sense? So then when I wrote those 35 names down, I wrote the 35 down saying, who could I bully into submission to do what I want them to do? Does that make sense? Do I have something to offer them when I walk in and say, don't tell me no? That's what I'm going to do. And by the way, what can I do for you? But when I ask them, what can I do for you? I already know the answer. I know what they're going to ask me. So I've already done it. Is that making sense? Let me make it a little bit more clear. One of these guys is in Kentucky. And I went down there and I said, Mr. Super Wealthy guy that owns all the stuff down here in Louisville, guess what I want you to do? I want you to do this. You know what, Doc? I'm going to do that for you. But you know what, though? I don't want you to just do it for me. What do you need? You know what would be great is if I can get access to this place and that place. I said, if I could do that for you, would you be happy? It was already done. It was done in an hour. I was still on the road back from Louisville only to send an email like, actually, it's done, Mr. Wealthy guy. You did that fast? Hey, man, you're my guy. What you think I would do, man? You here for me, I'm here for you. But I knew it already. That was a decision. The only person that hadn't made that decision was him. We all understand. You have to be in control of your business that way. But are you thinking of it that way? Are you literally looking so far ahead in your thinking that when the moment comes, you can either say left or right? You've already saw it. Pandemic hit, what am I going to do? Right? You're like, well, I kind of already knew that. What happens if, like, technically we couldn't get to people? And I had to do it a different way. Okay, well, what would happen if I had to pivot my business? Well, you know what? I've got this secondary model, I've got this tertiary model, I've got this supplemental model, and I've got these 4 strategic partners. So in the event that my primary doesn't earn me revenue, I'm just going to activate 2, 3, and 4. Does that make any good sense? And I spend time building up 2, 3, and 4 because I know I'm going to have to activate that this year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because I fully plan to be on business 10 years from now. I don't plan on fizzling out in the 4th year like 67% of all businesses. This is making sense. Let's keep going. That's calculated planning. I just told y'all that. Keep going, question.
So did you give us a little bit specifically about the exercises you do every morning? That tell us specifically what it is that you do, because I wanted to you kind of went.
Right, I'm in and around and all of that type of stuff. I actually do not do them as directly as that anymore because our planning is intertwined throughout our entire day. So the way that our day operates is that we've got certain tasks that we all know that have to be done. It tells us every morning through our system what calls need to be made, how many patients we have to have, how much research needs to be done. And in between there, we're taking breaks to then say, have we thought about, have we considered? What else do we know? Did you see that on CNN? What does this mean? And then we go and then we implement faster than everyone else. So it's a part of our makeup, if you will. Just like working out every day, it's just a part of what we do. Let's keep going. Divergent thinking. So divergent thinking, method of exploring many possibility and solutions in an uncoordinated manner. This is for you creatives. This is when you just start imagining stuff. And there's a place for that. You have to imagine issues. So not only are you going to operate as a robot, you're going to operate as a person high as a kite and just think about stuff and make it up. Because what you will know is that if it's in you and it comes out, somebody else might have already thought it or done it, or it's on its way. You ever watch a movie and be like, they already got some of that technology right now. Or if you don't think we doing that, you think it's science fiction. Only for 6 years later, like it's real. Use your imagination and creatively plan as many different outcomes as possible. All right, that's divergent thinking. So one part is robotic, one part is creative. All right, keep going. Intentional creative process, we just said that. Conscious decision making, let's roll it. So you actually have to practice this. So when we say practice this, you actually have to create scenarios and say, in this scenario, I would do what? Babe, we had a great conversation about that last night, didn't we, in Billions? We had a scenario. Anybody ever watch Billions? What the hey? Has one human watched Billions?
What's it on?
Showtime. So you kind of seen a couple episodes? You've seen Billions. So Billions is about this lawyer and this billionaire, and they got a whole bunch of lawyer-billionaire problems. There's a bunch of seasons of that. Well, what's amazing about the season that we're in right now is that this gentleman is running for district attorney of New York, and they got some dirt on him about him and his wife and their sexual behaviors. And his enemy is going to use that to force him to lose the race. But his wife is one of the top psychologists in all of New York. She's highly esteemed. So he goes to her and kind of like, they're going to air our dirt unless I resign. She like, you got to resign because they don't need to know our dirt. I looked at her like, what would you want me to do in this instance? She looked at me like, what would you do in this instance? Now, it sounds fun that we're just kind of watching this and talking, but here's where it's real. I am a public person. And if somebody wanted to say something about us, I said, what would you want? Would you be okay with being humiliated because I decide that I'm going to fight in the jungle because I'm public regardless? Or would you want to try to save face and hope that it doesn't surface? So what we decided was, let's look at it from the wife's perspective in the show. So we didn't pause the show and we went through divergent thinking the whole way through. We talked the whole thing out. So then it went through and I was like, oh my God, I knew he was going to do the thing that I thought he was going to do. And so we tripping out. So then I went downstairs to kind of, put away a dish and something. And I walked by the mirror. I promise this happened last night before we went skating. 21 and up night. We was rolling last night, 9 to 12. So I look at myself in the mirror and I thought, I promise this is how this went. I said, I'm from Detroit. And we never let nobody hold nothing above us. We walk around like kings in the jungle. So if I'm in the fight, I'm just in the fight. I went upstairs like, I got the answer. You always got to strike first. So if you ever see something happen, whether I run it by you or not, I'm deciding I'm striking first. That is the universal Baker decision. You good on that? She was like, I'm behind you. So what happens 7 years from now and something strange happens? I ain't got to even think about it. I just push the button because I already decided. Is that making sense? We went through an actual process of, we got in the car and I said, if anybody ever kidnap you, you die in that van. Didn't I tell you that? I said, you don't tell them nothing, you don't do nothing. You go swinging and don't act like you hope they're going to let you live. You fight and say, you better kill me now. You'll never get my husband or children. We're already deciding that. It sounds weird. That's divergent thinking. That's why I said it's an actual exercise for us all day long. Everything we see, we're like, what in the world would we do? Or if I only got $15, you know what I would spend that on? Canes. I just buy a whole bunch of canes and cane sauce. It ain't no use saving it. I might as well just eat chicken fingers. Like, we talk about all the stuff with decision making. So therefore, we can just push the button. Makes our decisions fast. Is that making sense? But at least you know the rationale for why you're making them. You got inputs. And those inputs make sense until new inputs come. Is that making any good sense? Right? Because if somebody said, look, Doc, if you're down to your last $15, give that to me. I know you're down to your last 15. I'll put you inside of our investment pool. At least I can earn you 1,000 off that. Then I'll bring it back. So I'll tell Canes no, and I'll go give it to them. Why? Because I got a new input. Does that make sense? Don't ignore the inputs. Was there a question over here?
Does it mean that the decision that you made, even though you planned it 7 years ago, won't work either?
Correct. It doesn't mean that at all, right? You're just making it based on your input. That's what eliminates your paralysis. So when you have analysis or paralysis by analysis, you eliminate that because you've already thought of variables. You have the right inputs, now you can hit go.
So do you have common, in your research, like common types of scenarios that you would say, okay, you know what, for business entrepreneurs and for-profit, here's a list of scenarios that you guys should go through. For nonprofit, which is what I am, nonprofit, these are the types of scenarios that you should go with your team, your A team, and your board. Do you have those types of things?
Absolutely. We invented what was called Business Health Index and Investment Health Index. We actually have standardized treatment care for all our businesses because we know what those baselines are. We call it dealing with the knowns and then living with the unknowns. Because we don't know everything, but we know a lot. So let's give you everything we know. So let's say on a scale of 100, you know 20. We know 60. Now you up to 80. Right now we're just going to deal with the 20, but at least we're equipped to deal with the unknowns of 20. Does that make sense? Let's keep going. We're getting close, y'all. We're getting close. Understanding of your cognitive biases. Keep going. Check these biases out. Hindsight bias. Right? Hindsight is 20/20. By the time something happened, oh, I knew I should have did that. That's a bias. It's waiting for something to materialize, and then by the time it materializes, you think it's good or bad. That's hindsight bias. Don't have it. Keep going. Positive illusions. A lot of business owners have positive illusions. Oh, I'm going to make a whole bunch of money doing this. Oh, man, wait till I get out here, man, I'm going to be killing them. That's positive illusions. You need better statistical data and analysis to help you understand if what you're doing is good or bad, or contextually saying what are my chances of conversion and what percentages do I have in order to be successful. All right, let's keep going. Social exchange. Social exchange is important because we are now very social in our society. So our social exchanges actually change our bias. Oh, you know what everybody think I'm gonna wanna do? Or people are saying this and that. Let me tell you about people, guys. Nobody knows anything. They're all stupid and treat them like they are. I'm up here sounding like I'm mean. But if you think you picked what was on that radio or what was at Kroger or what was in that retail shop, you didn't. They programmed you to pick whatever it is you picked off of that shelf. You had no control in it whatsoever. The survey you took was literally just a token survey. They're telling you what you can have because they're at a conglomerate level to where they can force it on you. Is this making any good sense? So if you're going to sit around and wait for somebody to tell you what you should be doing when you should be the expert, you don't deserve anything. One of Glove and I's first jobs that we had was at Backrack. We had a great time at Backrack, learned a whole lot at Backrack. LeVar was the first person to teach me through his actions, accidentally, that if you say something with confidence, people will believe it because they don't know nothing. And we used to have these Saturday meetings, and this is 1997, 98, when we used to have these meetings, and we used to have to dress the mannequin. Backrack is where men's suits would be worn, and we worked at the Tri-County Mall, and so they would tell us, okay, how do you dress the mannequin? What size belt? What size slacks? What, type of jacket? And so they asked LeVar, what size shoes? Glove was like 10. Everybody was like, yeah, it's a 10. The size was an 8. All of us was like, yeah, it's a 10. It's a 10, right? It's a 10. He couldn't have been more wrong. But he said it like he was right. So we was all like, he's right. We were teenagers when that happened. And I was like, you mean to tell me? Even if you don't know, people think you do. That was a tool I picked up. Literally picked that up. So I said, I'm actually gonna know and say it with confidence. Now we win in that instance. Because then when they fact check you, they're gonna be like, man, he knew. You ever heard the statement, if you get the reputation as an early riser, you can sleep till noon? You get the reputation as an early riser, you sleep till noon. Oh yeah, he up working. I'm asleep. But you think I'm up.
Okay, that challenges my honesty and
Yeah.
Because I want to present the need what I'm doing.
So you're going to do that. You are. But the difference is, and this is not what we're talking about today, but there's 6 secrets to persuasion. We remember them as an acronym called C-Carls. C-Carls. Letter C, then the word Carl. So one is consensus. Another is consistency. Another is authority. Another is liking. Another is wait, did I go out of order? Yeah, Carl. R, reciprocity, liking, then scarcity. Yep, consistency, consensus, authority, reciprocity, liking, and scarcity. So when you're talking about being authentic, that part is authority. You actually know what you're talking about. People are persuaded by that. The moment I walk in, I say I'm a doctor, 10% of the people here are like, man, there's a doctor in the building, I'm listening. 90% like, we don't care. But I got the 10%, right? Then I'm gonna hit them with scarcity. What's that? I own the only business hospital in the world. No one else got what I got. Another 10% like, whoa, this guy built something, he the only one got it. So now I got 20. Consistency is, okay, how's he delivering his message? Is he showing up when he said that he will? Those types of things. Well, what is consensus? 14 countries said I'm good at what I do. I done picked up another 20%. Liking, you either like me or you don't. But if you like me, I'm at 100%, because liking is the strongest. So when you talk about authority and authenticity, those two things go together. What I submit to you, no one cares about being authentic when it comes to the industry or the market. It's only a few of you. So then you have to make a decision, am I in the jungle or not? And it's okay not to be in the jungle. I tell business owners all the time, just make 70 grand and like pay your mortgage and like send your kids to school, like, and just work on your own, like do that. That's wonderful. But we end up over here with the positive illusions and we got to make 10 million. Well, guess what? The average business owner in the United States of America makes $60,000. That is a real number. The average black man without a degree makes 35 grand. The average black man with a degree makes 55. So if I'm trying to make a decision and I know those numbers, I'm starting a business. Because at least I ain't got to deal with your stuff. I just got to figure my own stuff out. And on average, I'll make more than a guy with a degree. That's just numbers. That's math at that point, right? But now if I'm amazing at business, I'm talking about I'm tearing it up, I can't be stopped. That's 126 grand. Top 1% of wage earners in all the United States of America make over 100 grand. So all I hear all day about what people make, man, I'm 6 figures, man, I'm 6 figures. I'm like, well, the IRS ain't saying that. So what, you hiding money? Where'd all these 6 figures coming from? Show me what industry they're coming out of, because it's not real. But I've got the real inputs, so I know not to listen to the lies. But guess what? If you don't, you like, I only made 50. They talking 6 figures. They double what I did. What's wrong with me? Now I'm depressed and sad as a business owner. And I can't even recognize success. So then I take unnecessary risk trying to make something that I'll never even get. You see what I'm saying? If you're a life coach and you're making 50, you should be doing cartwheels. You should just be like, how do I keep 50 every year? How do I stabilize my business? Is that making sense? Don't listen to the falsehoods. That's personal information ecosystem. It kills your business because you don't know what inputs to look at. Am I really making sense, y'all? Absolutely. Like, don't do the weird stuff. The world tells you the wrong stuff. Don't do it. Don't tell yourself the stupid stuff. Tell yourself stop. Go get real info. And you won't find it on social media. None of it's real. 0% of it's real. You know how I know it's not real? Somebody please ask me. I don't care who raised their hand and then say what I just said.
How you know it's not real?
Because you ain't getting paid enough to make it real. It's all lies, branding, and marketing. People that make a lot of money don't tell you stuff. Why aren't they telling you? Because they're too busy making the money off the stuff that's real. Robert Smith, the wealthiest black man in the nation. How did he get his money? Does anybody even know who that is?
He's a football player. He owns a football business.
That's not where he got his money, though.
Did he just pay off the tuition for the university in Morehouse?
Some of them, yes.
The university
Nope.
in Baltimore was named
Okay, so you're naming all the recent stuff. He was forced to do that. He had been super wealthy before then. So all the black power stuff we got, black people don't even know the richest black guy. Everybody's a fraud. We're all frauds. We don't even know where the playbook comes from. That's like not even knowing, I see you, who the first president was in your own country. We're a fraud if we don't know who the wealthiest black man is and we say we're about our money because we need to know how did he do it. He got his money through diversified investments. That's what they're going to tell you. He really got his money by actually hoarding other rich people's money offshores, snitched on them, got immunity, and they paid him for it. So you going to tell me he's going to give seminars on that? Heck no. He'll never tell you that's what he did to get the money. Is that making sense?
Is this under Vista Equity Partners or a different company?
A different one. So what happens is you'll never know what it took for him to get to that level. He's going to tell you antiquated things that's just general, not what's actually certain. But the real information is certain, and part of it is trial and error because it's based on your skill set, your intellect, your resources, your perseverance. Does that make sense? Yeah. And all of that is different for every human. So then we have to understand, heck, if I'm in this industry, my range is X to Y or Y to Z. How do I maximize where I am in this industry? I might only ever be an $80,000 person. Fine. And you take that and you invest what you can and you become smart and you build your assets. And maybe you build out some streams of income like you talked about, right? Which that's another myth. I ain't got time to even talk about it today. Maybe on Saturday at the Business Blitz, when I'm sitting on the panel, I can discuss it. I ain't got time to even do that to y'all today, so I'm sorry I even said it. But in this instance, is that maximize what you have with the right inputs. My time is short. I'm being rude. Let's keep going. Error management. Your inputs reduces the amount of errors you make. That's actually the difference. A good investor invests in hedges against the downside. Anybody ever heard the term hedges? Like hedge fund? That means that what they're doing is that they're putting another mechanism in place to ensure that their investment earns money. So they have a primary investment and another investment to make sure that they get the right amount of returns. So in this instance, it's actually error management. Your decisions say, based on all my inputs and my habitual behaviors, I'm reducing the amount of errors I make, which allows me to go fast with my decision making. And if I move fast and I fail fast, it's okay because all my failures are controlled. My failures do not go outside of the range that I already knew, which is what investors do.
So it's basically like a backup plan for a backup plan?
That's what it would be, but all of those plans have been well crafted and thought out. So they know that, you know what, if we decide that we are going to do a dividend play on the front end because we will possibly make 12%, we're going to hedge that with a short call option play on this side because we'll get an additional 6% because our minimum or our max loss on the front side might be 7, but if we add that 6, we only lost 1 and we're good with that. And the percentages of doing that is about a 10% hit. So 90% of the time we're going to be right. Does that make sense? Yep. So at any given time, our maximum loss is 1%. That's how hedges work. Which is why you go in there and you're really excited and you tap dancing like Sammy Davis Jr. about your idea trying to get money. And they're like, you never walked us through how you're going to earn it, how much interest I'm supposed to get, where all the valuations are coming from, and how do we protect to my downside, which is error management. Which is why we struggle with something as simple as credit. Why is my interest rate 24.9? Because the math has been good for 100 years and they know you're going to default. And that's why they want to get their money now. It's really simple. It's not even complicated. It's not you, it's them, which is to your point. They don't care about being authentic. It's a money play. It's all about money at that time. And that's the jungle you're in. So we have to make sure that we understand what game am I playing. Let's keep going. So thinking goals, whether we do right or we do wrong, let's keep going, is that it's not isolated choice making. Most people see decisions as isolated choice making. Oh man, what decision am I gonna make? It's real funny. Any spade players in here? All y'all lie. I want to play y'all. I want to see who's a real spades player. Hey, I like that right there. He was like, hold on, who you talking to, bruh? I like that. Right? So the reason why I'm saying that, we was just playing the other day. LeVar knows, heck, we didn't grew up playing spades. We play them. And it's amazing how when I see people bid, they be like, oh, 3 and a possible. Oh, what you got, partner? 2? Wait a minute. You got any possibles? I'm like, who are these bad players? I don't even bid my hand that way. Well, how do you bid your hand? Partner, what you see? I got 2. Put us down for 7. Why? I didn't already counted all the cards. I know exactly how many spades I got. I know how many face cards I got. Ain't complicated. I'm liable to throw a queen before I throw an ace, depending on how many diamonds I got. Right? Like, what is this? I done played the hand so much that I can almost play without looking because it's only 13 cards and 4 suits. All the decisions have been made. We just trying to find an extra book here and an extra book there in any given hand. That's all you're really trying to do. And if you ain't got the cards, you're going to lose anyway because I ain't got the cards. You have 10 spades in your hand. Might as well just give you my whole hand now. But if it's all mixed in there, I'm just trying to find one extra one. So you don't even have to stare at your cards and look. I'm going to go ahead and cheat for you. If your partner throw a low spade, you better throw your highest one. Don't be holding on to that joker. I'll quit and leave out the house because I'm like, you trying to get me upset today. I'm trying to see where the spade's at and you holding them. Don't hold them. I threw the 6 to see what you had. You understand? Right? So like it's real simple stuff. Your decisions go now. Your decisions go right now. Any bone players in here? I got a couple half domino players out here, right? Staring, don't know what you should do, right? all money ain't good money. Right, so you got a scenario where if you understand how many bones on the table, you know when to wipe and when not to wipe. You know when to lock the board up or not lock it up. You know that 5s bring blanks and blanks bring 5s. You know that 4s bring 2s. If we're playing on teams and I'm playing 4s, make sure you keep me straight. Don't try to get your money, keep me straight. So we can lock it up and get the rest in the end. You just got to know your inputs. Know your inputs. That's what we're saying. It's not an isolated choice. You've already seen it ahead of time. Make your decisions quick because you're good at it. Be good at what you do. And that starts with being a good decision maker. Making sense. But it's a science behind it. Let's go, babe. They mad at me. They got to go home. They got families. Excellence is a habit and not an act. I actually learned this in 3rd grade. Learned this in 3rd grade. Miss Mays taught me this. And she said excellence because, in Detroit, schools are pretty bad and they really wanted us to be pretty good. And they said, why don't you just be good at everything you do? Like, not some things. You do it, be good at it. So therefore, you get in the habit of being excellent. So decision making is the same way. Don't make a garbage decision like in fantasy football, but then say you're a good decision maker when it comes to business. Make good decisions in fantasy football too. It's making good sense. Like everything you do, think about, okay, what are all my parameters around it? Because this is good practice for my divergent thinking and my design thinking. Why is that? Because I'm a business owner and everything I do is about generating revenue to make sure that my business can be sustainable. Don't overlook any small task. If you do, you're in violation of self, which is why I said earlier, we are our biggest fool. We make ourselves the biggest fool. We look at stuff casual. We went on that vacation to Dubai. I wasn't there 10 hours, baby, before I'm like, wait, I got to figure out how this mall at 6 million square feet operates like this when everybody's floor plan is the same. Just to give you an idea how big the biggest mall in the world is, Kenwood Mall, if you've ever been there, has 150 stores. The Mall of Dubai has 2,000. It's significantly bigger. It stays open till 1 in the morning and it's crowded till 1. Am I lying? We were in there like, I'm sleepy, but it's so many people and we haven't been to that store yet. But the whole time I'm in here looking like, how was every single store floor plan flawless? Now, why would I know that? Because I picked that skill set up since I was 15 in Detroit, knowing that every store in the mall doesn't have the same floor plan, nor do they have the same budget for inventory. So I had to know. Why? Because I own a business hospital. So I found out that 4 companies own all the stores in the Mall of Dubai. I had to know. So they don't care if you bought from Balenciaga or if you bought from Michael Kors. You still bought from them. There were duplicate stores in the mall, right, babe? Like, didn't we pass this already? Like, no, we're in the East Wing. We're like, what? So you mean to tell me they got 2 of these in here? And you look, and they sure do. They're making sure you buy no matter where you go. Even if you was like, it was cheaper than that. Oh, it's right here. That's what they did to you. You think you made a decision, you didn't. Do you know what the word Dubai is translated as? You buy. That's a fact. And it was created in 1971. More opulence than any city that we have in this country. That's planned thinking, folks. You aren't in control of a thing over there. Not one thing.
Are women working in those stores? Because I know my neighbor went and she said they treat the women different over there. So
No, women work. And everyone works. They work so much that the unemployment doesn't exist, because if you don't have a job, they just give you a job. How many people were working in aisles? Like if you go to like a dollar store or like a CVS, there's a human in every aisle. And their job is the aisle. Like the aisle's pristine. Nothing's out of place. There's not like, I need some, whoa, you're right here. So I was wondering if they're in every aisle. That's what they do. And if you're unemployed longer than 3 months, they don't allow people to take residency there that's from outside of the country, so they ship you out of the country and ban you. That's literally what they do. And if you're from there, they put you into another job. It's very intelligent and it's designed.
I said one thing, I was in Qatar, which is
Yeah.
Dubai, 5 years, for the last 5 years. But, minus the last year that I was here. Qatar is very similar. And they can control anything that comes into the country. And but you cannot go in there without them knowing. You cannot stay at one place without a job without them knowing. So there's no jobless, there's no homeless, there's no nothing.
Literally.
Literally. And they have a system. If you want to go there and open a business, you have to involve the local guys. So you guys, it has to be 1%. That's in collaboration. That's the only way. And so you see families in Qatar who sponsor so many businesses and they work like that because they just collect that.
Absolutely. And so the point that he's talking about that I was making is that that's planned thinking. You all understanding? They're in control of their country and their businesses. They have a country to control. Can you control your own business? The thing that you said you wanted, can you control that? If you do that, you will have success. Don't get seduced by other things. That's bad decision making. You have to make the decision that my inputs say I'm great at this. I think I'm about done. Let's keep going. Yep, here we go. Here's my prescriptions for you all. Understand your current thinking pattern. If you don't know what it is, have it. Recognize your anecdotes, meaning that what are your personal experiences? Develop system thinking approach. Build your thinking approach. And then good decision making is habitual and contextual. These are things that you all have to do. That's the best I can do in this limited amount of time. Right? So you ain't gonna get all of it, but you better get something.
Can we go back one slide, please?
Mm-hmm.
Just one.
Or could we actually get these slides, sir? Would that be possible?
I'll send them to Ty.
Thank you so much, sir.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep, you guys got it. Yep. Lastly, my information in the event that anybody needs to contact the business hospital for anything. And actually, if you're taking pictures, that if you're writing, my direct email address is drbaker@drbaker.us.
That's so goddamn.
Right, that's it. Real simple.
DR or D?
Just DR. Yep, just like that right there. So drbaker@drbaker.us. All emails get checked same day within 3 hours.
Man, it may sound silly, but I'm dead serious when I ask this question. Don't laugh at me.
I won't. I promise I won't. Not in public.
You a God.
Yep. Absolutely.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Me too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the work. Make sure you email me. That means you're taking initiative.
My name is Kevin Shaw.
I got you. I'll remember. It's my job to remember. I'll make sure that I do that. Make sure you email me. Yep. Do you have a question or a statement? Anybody else got anything so I can let y'all go home and y'all won't avoid the power hour or me coming back because I done held y'all too long?
This was completely world class, man.
Really? Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Anything else? You got something?
You have free content in your house that you can check out.
Kinda, but not really. You all can buy that book from my website. It's at my bookstore. It goes deeper into how to make good business decisions. You can afford it. If you say you can't, I'm gonna laugh. just get the book, y'all. If you don't have enough access to run to me, that'll help you a whole lot. And then whatever other content that's on my site, or email me directly.
Can I buy that book right now?
Not that one right there. It's the only one I got, man. It's at the house, man. My daughter be reading that one, man. I just don't keep inventory. But I like what you just tried, though. I might be able to charge you $100 for it. $100. You will see it on the website, but it's how to make good business decisions. Literally the class that he put on y'all agenda. I was like, why would you be teaching a class on the book that I wrote? Clearly, I have to come in here and talk about it.
On the left-hand side is a bookstore tab. It's got all 6 books.
Yep, easy to find, isn't it? Not complicated at all.
You want Audible?
Nope. We got to actually sit and read and like make the time. I'm that guy. I appreciate it, y'all. Thanks.